we've seen this massive explosion in anti-Semitism, both, words online, in reality, people shouting at people, assaults and the like. And again, it's just this explosion since October the 7th, incredibly disturbing. I am really alarmed at the failure of the police to tackle the blatant anti-Semitism on these pro-Palestinian marches. You could be concerned about civilians in Palestine, Palestinians, in Gaza as much as you want. You don't have to be anti-Semitic to make your point at all. But we've seen the latest example of this, really shocking, a family in Edgware in North London saying that they sent off their baby's birth certificate to the Home Office as proof of birth to get a passport for their baby to travel. The baby's birthplace was Israel, and it was sent back with the baby's, with Israel scratched out, penned out, and also ripped, the birth certificate. Now, the Home Secretary, James Cleverly, has said that, they will be investigating this. There'll be a record of who dealt with this particular birth certificate. But this happening at all is shocking. This happening via a Home Office taxpayer paid for civil servant is even more shocking. And yet, am I surprised? No.
I share that concern because of the fact that it feels like it's sort of, I hate to say this, but it feels like it's open season at the moment. It feels like these anti-Semites are emboldened, that even if they're doing their paper-pushing job at the Home Office, they feel that they're in a position to do this kind of thing. You can't send in...
with impunity.
You can't send in your baby's birth certificate without being menaced in this anti-Semitic fashion. You can't go to a comedy show without being rounded on and hounded out. Even things like the Amy Winehouse statue thing, where, the Palestinian sticker was placed over the Star of David necklace pendant. It's like any kind of tiny expression of Jewishness is now has to be kind of
Jewish kids in North London, where the largest population of Jews live, are being advised, don't wear any signature, any sign at all that you are Jewish, even your school blazer and things. This has just got to be unacceptable. And people sort of go, oh, isn't this terrible? There's a lot of wringing of hands. I don't feel anything's being done about it, but also people aren't talking about what's really happening, which is we have imported millions of people in this country who have come along to this country with some very, very unpleasant views about other minorities. And people don't like to say it, but when you talk about who is behind a lot of these anti-Semitic attacks, it is often, again, the vast majority of the population of people in this country of any background are not doing this. But it is very often, it is people of a Muslim background who are doing it, who have basically been imbued with a culture that is anti-Semitic. And I'm sorry, but we need to call that out.
Also, I think we need to hold ourselves to account for the ways in which we've allowed this to flourish. Because one of the indicators, as you say, the vast majority of, say, British Muslims are not anti-Semitic. But there is a disproportion there. And one of the things you see...
It's a large minority. It's a minority, but it's a large minority.
The disproportion is very much amongst British Muslim communities which are less integrated. And this is one thing. Because integration has been such a dirty word for such a long time, we've allowed these kinds of tensions to fester. And there's a certain point in which refusing to confront anti-Semitism in, say, the form that it comes from a sort of radicalised Muslim community, should we say, becomes its own form of sort of anti-Muslim bias. You act as if these are children who need to be tiptoe around, as if this is an issue. Also, you're almost acting under the presumption that all of them are like that and that to tackle this issue would upset all of them, which is, of course, a smear on that community. So it's something that needs to be taken seriously. It's
patronising, isn't it? Everyone should be held to account for their views. But again, the far left, this used to be something you feared from the far right. Now it's the far left, but now it's kind of moderate left. I have been absolutely appalled by the number of people who, I thought were good people who have, I think, have been on the wrong side of this debate. I don't care how much abuse I get online about this. I stand with the, all the people who want peace in the Middle East, and that doesn't include Hamas. If you're not, if you go on a march, if you have any views on what goes on in Gaza, and if your first demand isn't that Hamas return the hostages and lay down their arms, you don't really want peace. And you're a liar. You don't really want peace.
The willful naivety of these things, these marches, and this has been shown time and again, they're organised by people, to put it conservatively, with significant links to Hamas. Why is it every Saturday there are people there chanting Arabic war slogans about the slaughter of Jews and are outright talking about the death and destruction of Jewish people in Israel? And we're not just talking about people saying mean things on the street or on social media or whatever. That Community Security Trust report from last week, it's been a 96% rise in anti-Semitic violence. And yet again, there's not a willingness to talk about it. If this was any other minority, we'd be talking about anything.
Well, the left would certainly be more concerned about it, wouldn't they? I mean, that's the thing. But again, so many Jewish people have said to me, it's them first. That whole, the first they came for the Jews. It's always the Jews first. that there's a warning sign. The warning sign isn't sort of a little tap on the shoulder. The warning sign right now is a big red neon sign that is 5 miles high saying bad things are happening. We need to step in now. And it's not good enough to not do it. You have to speak out. You have to go on, go on a march to show solidarity. You have to speak out. You have to speak out every time someone in your office, in your family, who's on the street says something, does something. Like, you have to speak out because we are in 1930s territory. I think we're early 30s. I don't think we're late 30s, but I think we are, and I don't think that's an exaggeration. And I am really, really scared for my fellow citizens in this country. I really am. I think this is a really, really scary time, and people should speak out. And I know you've done magnificent work at Spiked on this.